You are listening to the On Purpose Podcast. Welcome, On Purpose community, to this week's episode. This is a first, and I'm super excited about it. We have a guest on today that I think he would even say we helped play a little bit of role in his current life, and I'm excited to share that with you. Everybody, welcome on this week, Ryan Chartrand. Ryan, how you doing, my friend?
Dude, Jared, I am awesome.
You are awesome, my friend. That's the best way to start something right there.
I can't tell you how excited I am for this opportunity. And you know, as you started off, I mean, I forget when I found this podcast, what episode you were on, but for me, it was the beginning of 2020, before the world came crashing down as we knew it. And I found the podcast. I went back and I listened to every episode from the beginning. And man, some of them I listened to twice. And I actually, you know, I had a vision then. I said, you know, I'm going to be a guest on the show someday. And here it is.
Dude, that honestly gave me chills. And I'm not a guy that gets chills very easily, but I think sometimes you forget the impact creating content has on people. You know, if you get caught up in the metrics and like, oh, why did this episode do this numbers and that one did this numbers and how am I going to reach these people? But hearing that from you gives me chills and just reminds me of why we do what we do.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
You never know the impact you're going to make. So you found us at the beginning of 2020. So we weren't even a year into it.
Yeah, I can't remember what episode it was on, but I mean, I was hooked, and you know, I knew that you had recently taken the path that I was, you know, pretty much looking and towards going. So I said, well, here's someone who did it. Let me learn about him, what he did, what he's doing now. And you know, so much of the things that you talked about and everything about what led you to move on from the job, it was like a parallel. You know, it was like, this is where I'm at. This is what I'm feeling. Okay, you know, this is what I got to do.
Dude, I love it because we were recording then. We were still in Colorado, and you were policing out. Where are you at? In Rhode Island, Connecticut?
So I worked in Massachusetts. And it was a large town just outside of Worcester, Massachusetts, which is a big city in central Massachusetts.
Dude, I love it. Just think about that. Here's a random dude like me sharing some ideas on the podcast on the internet because I just believe I can do it and others encourage me to do it, and we're able to reach somebody in Massachusetts who has a need for some information and create a friendship that otherwise we probably wouldn't have crossed paths.
I know, and it's incredible. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but it just, you know, it just goes into the philosophy that I've learned over the last couple of years in my journey is, you know, everything, we're always where we're supposed to be at whatever moment, and between you doing what you were doing, creating the show and the content you were creating, and me being there to receive it, and click, boom.
I love it. But now you're a veteran of the show. And even in our pregame warm-up stuff, you were like, dude, can you change the warm-up questions because you listen so much? But here's what I believe. Consistency creates champions, my friend. And there's no changes coming here. So I got to warm you up, Ryan. You know what's coming, my friend. You're trapped on an island for the rest of your life. You get one food. What's Ryan eating?
And you know, it's funny because I think every time I hear you ask this, it's a different thing for me, depending on what kind of mood I'm in or whatever. So, you know, sometimes it would definitely be pizza. Sometimes, but however, I am 10 days into 75 hard, and pizza is not a part of my diet anymore. So I'm going steak, man.
Okay. You love 75 hard too. How many times have you done that now?
So, yeah, it's a funny story about that. So I completed it, and I completed it end of 2020, beginning of 2021. And I said, you know, the year before, I kind of let myself go a little too much with my eating over the holidays. So I said, you know what, I'm going to do 75 hard over the holidays. No alcohol, no sweets, no none of that. So I did it over the holidays. And then afterwards, I found out that technically, on a technicality, I probably didn't successfully complete it. And and the reason was I used one of my days for my workouts. We hiked a half marathon. So we did a 4-hour, 15-mile hike. It was outdoors and everything, and I counted that as both of my workouts. And since it wasn't separate, it technically didn't count.
No, dude, didn't you stop and get water somewhere along the hike? Dude, that's two different workouts, bro.
I just gotta be real. So you know what? I'm back at it again, coming up over the 4th of July. I had to get some clarity and some discipline back in my life, and I had every excuse why I was going to wait until after the 4th of July, and so that I could have my drink Bud Light Limes on the beach and have some snacks and sweets. But I said nope. I started the next day. I said I got to do this now.
Ah, good for you, dude. I'm not gonna lie. I can't do 75 hard right now because doing this seasonal stuff at the brewery, I get a free drink at the end of every shift, and we make our own beer. And there's no way I'm not sampling those. So I'm like on 75, kind of like medium hard right now. Almost soft.
Yeah, I think, most of the things, I think the biggest thing that isn't a habit for mine is just the second workout and, the no alcohol or cheat meals. Everything else I'm pretty regular on. So.
Yep, I love it. All right, Ryan, next warm-up question. Superpower, my friend. What superpower would you have, and why would you want it?
It's scary. And I think about this a lot too, but I would have to say the ability to read minds. And I just think being able to anticipate or know, I think it would help me know where to focus my energy and know where, whatever energy I'm putting forward isn't going to be fruitful. And, being one step ahead, you can't go wrong with that.
Dude, I love that. Now, let me throw a twist because you had a guest on your show, Eric McCants, a few weeks back, and he was on mine, I think 2 weeks ago. And I'm
looking forward to that episode.
Yeah, he's a good dude. And he wanted to read minds too. But now let me ask you this. I'm going to throw it, because you're a veteran of the show, I can throw some curveballs at you. Why do you think so many people want to read other people's minds? What if we put that and said we want to be able to read our own mind and understand our own thoughts deeper?
Man. And you know what? I'm gonna go deep, and I'm gonna go honest. I think, and I'll be humble here with me. I think being able to read other people's minds would take away some insecurity or doubt and that we might have about ourselves and what other people feel about us.
Oh, for sure. And see, yeah, I think that's interesting, right? We always want to read minds, and so we know what they're thinking. And I think you're absolutely right. Most of us, if we could pick to know what anything they were thinking, it wouldn't be like a cure for cancer. It wouldn't be some astronomical, like, big thing. It would literally be like, what are they thinking about us? Do they think I'm an idiot right now?
Yeah. And so you know what? I guess ultimately it is kind of selfish.
No, it's good. Imagine how much more stuff could get done in the world if people didn't care what others thought about them.
Be unbelievable.
Yeah, I agree. All right, what book are you currently reading, and what is your favorite book?
So I just finished a book called The Power of One More by Ed Milet. Actually, just finished it yesterday. And phenomenal book, highly recommended. I've been a fan of Ed Milet for a long time. He is, I talked about my vision of being on the show. Another vision I have is to be a speaker like he is on the stage. He's a prolific speaker. My favorite book is my go-to book whenever someone says, what book should I read or whatever. And that's Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. And when I first heard about his extreme ownership philosophy and what it meant, and realized that I wasn't living like that, and I decided I was going to adopt that philosophy into my life changed.
How so?
Because I realized, and it's still a process, but realizing that if you're always putting the blame on other people, you can never change things because it's always someone else's fault. When you look for the role that you have in every incident, every part of your life, every facet of your life and you adopt it, okay, how am I in control? How is this my fault? You're now in control and you can implement the changes and do what you need to do to fix it and make it better.
Yeah, for sure. Well said. That is a fantastic book. All right, one last warm-up question for you, Ryan. You get to have dinner with anybody in the world. Who are you having dinner with, and what would you ask them?
You know, such a tough question, because, man, there'd be a list a mile long. And I think I would have to go back of all the so many phenomenal people, but I would want to go back and we can bring people, but they don't have to be alive anymore, right?
No, anybody you want, my friend.
Okay, so my grandfather on my father's side, he passed away from cancer, many years ago. I was only 5 years old, so I never really get to meet him, talk to him, and really, because I have so much respect and admiration and appreciation from my father. I'd like to know more about the man who raised my father and learn more about him.
Oh, dude, that's deep. I love that. Yeah. That'd be a good dinner. Would he be having steak, or would he get not so 75 hard Ryan has some pizza?
I don't know what kind of food he likes, man, but if I'm having a nice dinner, man, I am having a big, gigantic steak.
I'm sure he would be happy with that. It'd be a good time. All right, you feeling warmed up, my friend?
I am warmed up, man. I am warmed up. Let's see if I can do better, if I can keep going with the drop some more fire.
You got plenty in you. So I want to talk a little bit, Brian. You kind of alluded to it in our opening. When we first met, what was it that you either heard or you felt that allowed us to help you facilitate the changes in your life?
It was realizing that I had gotten to a point in my career that I wasn't happy, and it was starting to affect everything. It was affecting my job performance. It was affecting my relationships, and realizing that, you know what, maybe I had done my time. Maybe it was time for me to actually make a change, go do something else that maybe I had more passion for. A big thing was realizing that I had turned into the police officer that, 15 years beforehand, I had vowed that I would never become. And I looked at myself in the mirror. I said, I've become that person.
How many years did you have on at that time? So we're talking early 2020, late 2019. How many years had you been a policeman?
Right. So that was going on 18 for me. So I started my career as what they call reserve intermittent. So I wasn't a full-time patrol officer, but they actually, I was 22 years old, and my police chief gave me a badge and a gun and said, "Here you go, sport it, sink or swim." And I was out on patrol, man. So it's scary.
Yeah.
We filled in on patrol shifts when they couldn't fill shifts with full timers. So I did that for 4 years, and then I was full time for 14 total. So we're probably looking at about the 13 and a half mark right here, full time, and
Sure.
17 and a half total.
Okay. And you weren't happy with what you were seeing.
And so much understanding and personal development came after that to realize where I was at and why I was there. And so much of it was mindset. So much mindset that I learned was after that, to realize where I went wrong in my career and what I could have done better, what I could have done to be a better police officer. And as I told you, back then, it was easy for me to. It was so easy to place the blame. It's the administration, it's this, it's the state, it's the government, it's the courts. All of that stuff.
Sure.
Definitely.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, definitely learned since then how I could have made it different. But unfortunately, when I was in my personal development journey, starting to learn about extreme ownership and all these making myself better, I was doing it with the goal of leaving policing in mind, and developing myself and improving myself in my career wasn't the goal anymore.
Let's talk about that for a second, because I think that is a very, very common theme on two levels. One is that within the law enforcement career, we focus so much mindset training on winning fights with bad guys and recognizing danger and the external stuff, and we do a terrible job of training the mindset within on how to survive such a stressful career, right? And something that can just overwhelm you, and just like you said, literally create a person that you were mentally not wanting to become, yet you got pulled that way.
Right.
Then the next thing is, what do you think on this? How come we don't acknowledge that police officers need to have a career after the career, and we don't prepare them for it? Like, you almost have to go out and do it. Like, almost everybody I know that's made this transition, like me, like you, and those that are coming behind us, take on their own ownership of their personal development and their mental health, and it almost always leads them away from the very profession that gave them so much to begin with.
It's amazing, isn't it? And so much of it, I think, is culture. You get in as a rookie and you kind of assimilate into the culture, which makes it so difficult to change the culture. And we're so focused on whatever that's going on, whether it's politics, whether it's the job, whether it's the internal drama of the police stations. We get so caught up in it. And I know where the agency that I worked with, everything, it wasn't even about doing the job. It was just about how much overtime can you work and how much money you can make. And it drains you. It just doesn't leave time, and the culture doesn't promote, what else can you do outside of this?
Right. It's almost the opposite, right? If you have any kind of outside hustle or outside interest, you're almost looked down upon when you're young.
Yes. And almost the more I noticed, the more I grew in my side hustle, I felt like the less I was connected with the people in my agency.
So now imagine this. Let me just imagine this with you. What if we had that ability to read minds like you asked for as a young police officer? Would you then, that would help us not assimilate to a culture that is detrimental to our own health, right? Because you think about it, as a young cop, why do you start taking on beliefs and behaviors and working overtime to sacrifice your family and their time just because you think you need more, if it's not to just fit in?
Yeah. You're exactly right, and that's a tough and a deep question. I think people just just like anywhere, you want to fit in. When you come, you're the new person, you start to go along. You don't want to be the new person and come in and drop bombs and try and be different and change things. So you just start to go along with the flow, and you get caught up in it.
For sure. Next thing you know, 15 years have gone by, you're 5 years away from retiring, and you don't recognize the person you've become, right?
Exactly.
So talk to me about, I love having this question with people, and not just in law enforcement, but anybody who's making that life change, that career change. What was the biggest fear obstacle you had to overcome to making this change?
Believing that I could do it. And honestly, one of the biggest fears was actually selling the move to my wife, that we could make it happen financially. Ultimately, you're walking away from a job that pays you $80,000 to $100,000 a year just for showing up.
Yeah, and absolutely.
And the pension that comes along with it and everything. So you really have to be sure that, and I think that's what holds a lot of people there. So many people say, if it wasn't for that, I gotta make my pension. I gotta, what else could I do and make this kind of money is a big thing. And I think it's that paycheck and that pension is kind of like that leash, that anchor that holds people there.
For sure. And that's in any profession. That's anybody that is, tied to a job. So tell me, how did that conversation go with your wife when you said, hey, I want to walk away from 6 figures and benefits and pension to gamble on us? How did that talk go?
So I'm not going to lie. We were out on dinner for a date night, and the kids were off with one of our parents for the night and everything. So I was enjoying some. It was actually in the fall, so I was enjoying some delicious pumpkin beer.
What are you drinking? Sam Adams? Is it a Sam Adams pumpkin? Who do you drink up there?
It was probably a local pumpkin. We got some great local pumpkin brews up here. We got a local brewery called Wormtown, and Wormtown has an amazing pumpkin that they do.
All right.
In the fall. But yeah, get some of that liquid coverage on, and I came out with it, and I told her, but in my mind I had the whole plan. And I said, listen, if I do all of this, I had it all lined out, all lined up, all planned out, that listen, if I leave on this day and do this up until then I'll be able to go a minimum of a year, not make one nickel, and we won't run out of money. So I'd been building kind of a war chest, so to speak, to kind of build up and everything. And I think ultimately she knew that I was not happy. She knew it wasn't a good place for me. It wasn't a good environment for me. And, I think her seeing that's what I needed to do and that's what I really wanted kind of sold it.
I love it. And what was her response? What'd she say?
She said, well, if that's really what you want to do, then, do it.
I love it. Dude, I love just those leaps of faith and courage to change stuff like that. Because especially, we got some family stuff going on in our family where some people are nearing the end of their life. And that's one of the things I don't want to take with me, is that regret of what could have been, what might have been if I had just believed in myself.
Yep. 100%. I think a lot of us either don't believe in ourselves, or we're afraid. We don't know how to take that leap. And, if you're serious about it, if you really want it, you got to plan it out and then jump.
I agree. And that's, I always tell people I'm not super talented in a lot of things in life, but one thing I'm very, very good at is I can believe in myself. That's like my superpower. And that is the self-belief, I think, is going to take you further than actually, excelling at anything. Yeah, at times for sure. So talk to me now. Here's something else. So when you decided to leave and walk away and put your family on a new path, what was your initial plan? Are you doing what you initially thought you would be doing?
Somewhat, and it's also altered. So I was working with one company on a part-time basis, and my plan was to go and work on a full-time basis with that company. And I ended up, as you do, it's like you're a little nervous, because it's like, all right, I gotta make my own paycheck here. What if something slows? So I had started working with another company as well in a different industry, and to kind of say, well, this is, if something is a pin out, I got 2 things going on. I got income coming from multiple places now, so this is great. Ended up spending a lot more time than I had planned with that second company, and then had to really realize that, all right, now I'm trying to excel at 2 things, and I'm not doing a good job at either of them because I'm just spread out. I'm not. My focus is all over the place.
Yep.
So I knew I had to kind of decide between, which one am I going to do? Which one am I going to do? And ultimately, at that same time, and this is, I believe so wholeheartedly in the law of attraction. I was reading a book called The Alchemist, and I had up on my board, my whiteboard in my office, a quote from The Alchemist that said, if you truly want something, the world will conspire to bring it to you. And I was looking up at that quote, and a recruiter from a company reached out to me. And I went and met with him and everything, and great opportunity with an unbelievable company. And it was like that was the answer for my path forward, was to blaze a new path, on one track with this new company and head in that direction. Gave me the ability to offer so much more for the clients that I work with and everything. And then, so, as things have it, so I started working with that company, and then I ended up meeting up with, completely random, met on LinkedIn with, one of my partner in our podcast, Chad Bruckner, on LinkedIn. And we met up, we had a great conversation. Again, we've been on the same paths that you and I had taken,
right.
Things happen in the job and everything led us again. When we talk to each other, it's like, man, we had parallel lives right here with our careers. And we said, geez, that would have been a great conversation to record. And I told him, I said, I've always wanted to start a podcast. And he said, I've always wanted to start a podcast too. And a week later, we had that conversation again, but recorded it. And we've been recording podcasts since then. Under the Breaking Bad show, been recording those podcasts, which has become a big part of my life, because even in my other company, my aim is to work with police officers and help better them in their lives. And our show started as kind of encouraging people to make the transition from law enforcement into the private sector. But we kind of, as all things do, as you grow, I don't want to encourage people to leave an admirable and a fantastic profession, a profession that can be absolutely amazing for everyone, for the people we serve, for the people that are in the profession. So we've ended up morphing into a show and what we're going to continue doing to helping police officers make the most of their career, being able to take my mistakes, take everything that I did wrong and what I've learned since, and help them so they don't make the same mistakes, help them so that they can be leaders and change the culture in their department. Almost, it's a lot like what you were doing for a while when you were with Patrick and Carrie with Triad. Be the change agent, encouraging people to make their agencies better, find goals for themselves within the department. And if that's not what they want, if they truly want to leave, then yes, show them the path and what can be done outside. But for the most part, making the lives of police officers in the profession better.
Yeah, and I love it. So here's something I want our community to understand. And one of the big points I take from that story, and it's the same for my journey, is when you have the courage to leap and you take the jump and you go, don't put so much pressure on that I have to have all the answers right now, because just by getting in motion, you're creating momentum, which is going to bring other opportunities your way. And that's what I always told people when I left. I was like, I don't know that what I think I'm going to be doing is what I'm actually going to be doing. I just know I will be moving in this direction.
I think it makes life so fun too, especially because now instead of going to work and being in a patrol car for 8 to 16 hours and, not knowing what type of call or what I'm going to have to do that day. Now it's like, all right, what am I attracting to me? What is available to me? What opportunities do I have? Who can I help?
Yes.
Who can I connect with?
Yes.
And I guess even just saying that, maybe if I knew that and had that mindset when I was still in the patrol car, I could have made my career different.
Yeah, but you know what? You can't. I agree you could have, or maybe you couldn't have, because maybe that edge you had, that rougher side, is what kept you safe. It's what made that one guy that one night at 3 a.m. that the call went perfectly well, but he was waiting to see if he could attack you and beat you. Maybe that's what kept him from wanting to do it to begin with, because he thought, I can't win. You see what I'm saying? Like, I find myself at times going like, wait a second, man, if I'd have just been more empathetic, like right now, one of the big journeys I'm on is like just trying to find love and happiness and all the stuff that comes my way, even if it's an obstacle, even if it's a hurdle. I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to learn here? But man, maybe that Jared would not have won that fight with the guy in the rifle at the domestic violence call back in 2004.
Yep.
You see what I'm saying? Like, and so I think one of the things we've got to do, Ryan, one of the things I think we really got to do is to have not just cops, but people in general look forward, not look back and go, oh, if I could have, because you don't know. Just like you said earlier, the world you are where you're supposed to be at that moment for some reason.
Yep.
And if you change one, it's like those superhero show, like the Flash, right? When he goes back and he changes one little thing, and then it changes all of the future.
Yep.
So you don't know. And so I think we got to give ourselves grace, right? Look back and go, we are imperfect, but for whatever reason, the way I was then was exactly how I was supposed to be to become who I can be today.
Man, and that is why I love this show, because you know, you're exactly right, and I don't think I considered it that way.
I know.
You're exactly right.
Right, because I think that's one of the things, and that's why I love your podcast. I think that's one of the underwritten intangibles you can bring is that grace to our careers. That we don't have to be who we are now back then, because it's a certain aspect to it. But there is life beyond the badge, right? There is life beyond any career that any of us choose. There's life beyond being a mom of 3 kids that are little and need you all the time, because eventually they're moving out. What are you going to do next?
Yes.
Right, and it's okay to recreate ourselves, and it's okay to recreate ourselves to be who we want to be based on what we've gone through.
Absolutely. And, you know, that just, you know, I'm going to rewind back to the beginning of my full-time career. And that, you know, all my life when I growing up, all I ever wanted to be was a police officer. And that's, you know, I worked since I was a little kid. That's what I worked, you know, I went to college to do that. And it was almost like you know, in college, I was just waiting to be a police officer. It was like, all right, these are the motions I got to follow so I can be a police officer. Then when I was a part-time police officer, then it was, all right, I got to be a full-time police officer. I got to be a full-time police officer. That was my only focus. And then that happened, and I never set another goal. I never thought of what was next, what was beyond.
Right.
And I had become, and I think that's a big thing that led me down the path that I took, is that I never set another goal.
And then to me, that is a failure of leadership, and that is an exact example, and I use this constantly. That is the difference between managing and leading. A manager, I just want Ryan to show up for a shift, fill a car, take all the calls he needs to, create statistics, and go home. That's what I want from you. As a leader, I want all that, but I also want to know, what can I do to make you better? What are your goals? Why are you not testing for promotion? Why are you not seeking this? Let's get you to some more training. What are you interested in, right? And that's one of the detriments of a lot of corporations and a lot of just workplaces around, is we treat people like things, so we manage them. We put square pegs and square holes, and we call it good. But to truly excel, you need to lead the people behind the jobs you're hiring them to do.
Absolutely. To keep people, to keep them engaged, to keep them growing. I mean, we know if you're not growing, you're dying. And if you're plucked into a position or a job and you do this forever, that's what people burn out. They get discouraged, they get angry, and everything suffers.
Right. And I think, you know, I would venture to say your marriage and like watching your family stuff on social media just puts a smile on my face, because I see the Ryan that you wanted to be when I first met you that wasn't necessarily showing up on some of those conference calls.
Right. Yep. And it's, you know, a big thing is getting for me was getting pulled out of the culture that I was involved in. And I shared a post, and it was one of the last selfies I took of myself in the police car, and I realized that, like, the look on my face, I was like, holy cow, wow, you couldn't smile when you were there. I couldn't smile.
Oh, I believe I've had people come up to me and are like, dude, you seem so much lighter since you left.
Yeah.
Right. And not like physically, just energy lighter. Like you've gotten that burden kind of off your shoulders walking away and knowing that there's something else you can do.
And I'll say I had one of my closest friends from the agency that I worked with. He left in March. He took the leap and he left. And after about a month, he shared a picture of himself and his family on social media and everything. I said, dude, I haven't seen a smile like that on your face in years.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing. I could see, even when I see pictures of him now, when I talk to him, he's lighter. He's happier. He's enjoying himself again.
Yeah. And what if through breaking the badge and through the work I do and the work that many others are doing, we can create a culture that allows that to happen while you're still on the job.
Yep.
Right? Let me ask you, what is firefighters? Seem pretty light, pretty happy. They enjoy their job, most of them. And they all have side hustles, right? Because they have a schedule that allows it.
Yep.
And no one bats an eye at a firefighter also doing landscaping. No one bats an eye at a firefighter that also does construction. That's part of their culture.
They think it's weird if they don't.
Right. Yeah, and police work, yet in law enforcement, the very guys that go on the same calls together, if you're not working all the overtime you can, if you're using your vacation days, if you're calling in sick when your mental health that says you shouldn't be there, you're looked down upon. Right? If you're the cop that's like, hey, I'm also going to open this business on the side, that's almost looked down upon because you're planning your exit. Even though we know everybody has to leave that career at some point, we do a terrible job at preparing them for that.
Yes, you're exactly right.
So what if we decided to adopt the culture? It's not like we have to recreate it. We can just kind of copy what fire departments do and create a culture where we know, like, in 20 years, I want Ryan to go on and be as happy, successful, and enjoy the rest of his life. What kind of service would the community see differently? What kind of recruits would we attract and would we be able to retain if we cared about the whole person more than just the actual job?
100%. And it's also the quality of policing that you're going to get as well. When you have someone that's happy, number one, and you have someone that, let's face it, if you're working 80 hours a week and 16 hours a day, how are you showing up on calls?
Right. And why is that acceptable?
I'd work, we had I don't know if we had them out where you were in Colorado, but we have what are called like road job construction details, and we get paid a whole boatload of money, and you just flap your arms around road construction all day in the blazing hot sun.
Awful.
And I would do that from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then I'd go and work 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. on patrol. And I tell you what, I mean, I was by 7 at night, I was cooked.
Yeah, for sure. You can only take so much of that.
Yeah. I mean, the beating hot sun, then you do that day in and day out. And, just year after year after year, it wears on you.
Right. And what is the cost? Right? Not only the cost to you, right, mentally, physically, what kind of service you're providing, the cost to the community, but what about all the things you miss that are going on around you that are only once in a lifetime type moments? That kid's birthday, the first baseball game, the first hit, the last baseball, all these things we miss. And I think that's one of the things you realize when you transition out of that career is now you have control of your schedule, so you can put the big rocks into your calendar that you're not going to miss anymore.
Yep. and I mean, one thing I did is I always had, I was fortunate that, I coached a lot of kids sports and stuff. So it was a rare occasion that I would miss a game or anything like that. I think the biggest thing I noticed was just the time that I was present at home. And, it's being there, if I was working days, I would have been out of the house before the kids were up. It's being there in the morning to talk to them, help get them ready, give them some encouragement and everything before they go off to school.
Yeah.
If I was working evenings, then I was gone all evening. It's being there to have dinner with the kids. Just being that presence, being that guide for them that they can talk to, that you just, that presence for them is important.
No, for sure, dude. And I love that you had the courage to take that leap, and I'm glad we played a little role in it. And I got to tell you, you had a post the other day that I absolutely loved, and it was about the honor and privilege of mowing the yard. Dude, I love that, right? Like, that's a rite of passage. Like, it was an honor and privilege to mow the yard. And when your son wanted to mow the yard, right, like it meant something. And that was like, okay, man, Ryan's like just your relationship with your boys and your wife is something I think has really been fun to watch during this transition for you. So talk to me through, like, how did you know you had made the right call based on those relationships?
Oh boy. I love being with my boys. So one big thing was, in 2020, I left in August, and come September, because of the pandemic, they weren't going back to school. So they were going to be doing a stay-at-home Zoom school. And my wife, as a special ed teacher, she had to go back to school. So I said to myself, I said, if I was still a police officer, I would likely have to, after 18 years on the job, I would have to go back and work midnights so that I could be home with the kids for Zoom school during the day when my wife was at work. And, I'm not going to say it went easy. There were definitely tough days in there and everything, but I was able to make sure I was there for them, helping them, guiding them through the Zoom school. I was working from home, so I was doing my work. It wasn't like there were some distractions in there and stuff, of course, but
sure.
I wasn't away there, or I wasn't coming home and being miserable because I had been up all night working and then having to do Zoom school and living life on 4 hours of sleep. And, that was amazing. And just the presence that I'm able to have with them. I mean, they're like having two little sidekicks, one on each side of me. I take it very, very seriously. And I think all of us, we do as parents, is that number one, I want to raise my two boys to be absolutely phenomenal human beings in this world, to be the best that they can, to contribute to society and be great people. And there is an element in there that you kind of want to guide them away from making the mistakes that you made. And I think as all parents, we want to see our kids do even better than we do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Now talk to me about, so we got into the podcast. You got that going. That's coming out, I believe, every Tuesday, right? You guys?
Every Tuesday, yes.
Yeah, I love it. And you have a quote. I'm on your website, and I love this quote. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Viktor, how do you say his last name? Frankl?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an amazing quote, and I commend you, because that's what you're doing, my friend. Is that you have taken control of how you view not only life around you, but how you're living your life and sharing it with your family and those that are listening to you.
And I think adopting that, it brings peace to your life, because when everything is other people's fault, it can't be changed. But when you're in control, it can be.
It's funny, right? Because it brings responsibility, right? Because then you say, like, okay, I have the responsibility to change how I view this. Which a lot of people are like, I don't want more responsibilities. Like, I already got enough on my plate. But then you're right. The flip side of that additional responsibility brings the peace because you know you have you're empowered to change.
It's on me. It's under my control. It's on me.
Absolutely. Now, talk to me about family adventures and what all is Ryan up to besides the podcast and work. And I know you're on vacation on some island right now.
Yeah, it's beautiful down here. So we spend as much time as we can down here in the summertime. We just take 2 full weeks and we come down on weekends and stuff.
And where's
like
that at? Where's down here?
So it's a little island in Rhode Island called Prudence Island. Tiny little island. It's got dirt roads and no bars or restaurants, and only a couple hundred locals and stuff like that. And it's just quiet. Absolutely beautiful. I like to. I'm not a city person. I like to go, and I don't like crowds. I like to come get away and have a little piece of paradise. Nice and quiet.
I love. Yeah, that is so good to reset. And did you didn't have to put in for vacation days or get approved or get anybody to cover that shift for you? You could just do it.
I gotta tell you what, that is absolutely unbelievable. And for the past 2 years, we have come down to this island and had Thanksgiving with my parents and everything. Had a great, quiet Thanksgiving, which I never would have been able to do. Not having to worry about, am I going to be able to get Christmas off? Am I going to be able to spend, am I going to be able to spend Christmas morning with the kids? Not having to. One thing it was always my thing is I said, you know what? The only 2 holidays of the whole year I care about having off is Christmas and the 4th of July. I'll work all the other holidays. Doesn't bother me.
Yep.
And that's what I did. I never put in for those other holidays off, but now it's like all of those summer holidays, like Memorial Day, Labor Day, those big summer holidays, we can come out and relax and have that time. It's like, wow, I don't have to. I'm not leaving my family at home on a holiday wondering what they're going to do and doing their own thing while I'm here at work. That's definitely an amazing thing.
I love it. Yeah, and congratulations to you and the family on your successes and the challenges that are still to come that no doubt you guys will face with grace and courage, just like you did this transition.
Dude, I appreciate it, man. And life is a journey, and you can hate the journey or you can love the journey. And again, it's all on you. I embrace the challenges and learning more and more about myself and growing every day and learning what else I can do to serve and be a good person in this world.
I love it. Before I let you go, though, Ryan, I did add a little something for you as a veteran of the show. I didn't throw it in the warm up, but I got it in the closing. I want to know. Share with our community the biggest lesson you took away from being part of the On Purpose podcast community.
Oh boy, there's so many. Finding meaning in everything. Finding finding the purpose in everything, and just that big guide, being that guide of realizing that, all right, there's a purpose to this. There's a purpose. This is a purpose to everything that's happening. And it's up to me to find what it is and make the most of it.
I love it, my friend. I love it. Where can our audience follow you? What kind of social media handles and obviously the podcast, the Breaking Bad show? Where else can they find you, Ryan?
Yes, so I am on Facebook, just my name. On Instagram, I am at financially.fit.cop, and we also have the Breaking Bad Show Instagram page as well, and also LinkedIn. I've definitely been more of a presence on LinkedIn recently. I don't know what it is with Instagram, but if it's my hashtag police that they don't like or whatever, that content doesn't do very well on Instagram for whatever reason. But I've definitely been doing a lot more on LinkedIn. Same thing, just under my name, I'm on LinkedIn. We also have the Breaking Bad Show LinkedIn page and everything. And for those of you in the, that are current police officers listening to this, first responders, there is an absolutely phenomenal community of like-minded people on LinkedIn that if you're in a place that you feel like, you're not happy where you are, or you need some encouragement in your job, there's amazing people to reach out to and to be a guide in making your career what you want to be and getting new ideas and new things you can do as a police officer or first responder.
I love it, Ryan. Thanks so much for joining us this week. And man, we look forward to continuing to watch your progression, and we'll have you back on for a follow-up some other point and check in with you again, my friend.
I love it, man. Thank you again. This has been, like I said, this was a vision come true for me, man. Love it.
We appreciate you. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Jared.
And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We will see you all again next week.